Hey everybody, I'm James again. I'm a medical student at the Medical College of Georgia, and this time I'm going to be representing myself and my teammate Nikhil. I'm going to be here today on our work building a national value-based care competition and curriculum for our school and other medical schools. So the problem, in short, our ability to innovate and bring new modalities to the treatment field is far outpacing patients' ability to afford those new treatments, and this gap is growing, which means it's ever more important that medical students begin the process of learning value-based care principles as well as process improvement tools so that they can engage with these challenges. However, on the other hand, this is not something like the oncology education we talked about earlier, where medical students are well suited to immediately be able to solve healthcare problems overnight. So how do we solve this challenge of getting students to engage in something that's important while also making it achievable and realistic at a medical student level? So here's the pathway we took, and I'll go into detail again on each of these, but broadly, we gathered some key stakeholders and resources. Then we built a proof of concept. Once that was successful, we exported that proof of concept to multiple other schools into a national competition. And then lastly, I'm going to discuss the implications this has as a longitudinal model for educating medical students on value-based care. So the first piece was gathering the resources we need. I reached out to the CMO and Chief Quality Officer at AU Health, and she was very interested in getting medical students engaged and learning these principles, as well as the Vice President of Patient Advocacy. Obviously, this has a stake in patient safety as well as patient outcomes. We also collaborated with national organizations, including IHI, as well as Choosing Wisely, and got a lot of mentorship, especially from Dr. Moriarty's at the Choosing Wisely STARS program. And lastly, we had to do some of our own homework. So Nikhil and I, we both have some background in process improvement from our previous lives, but we did some more homework and actually ended up giving a lecture to our class on some basic things like how to do a fishbone diagram to analyze value deficits. But we felt that this was important enough that we want to go further than just a 45-minute talk. And how can we engage other students besides ourselves? So the first step was to build a proof of concept. As you know by now, I kind of like competition, so we built a competition. Tried and true. In this case, we built a case competition. So we had a case based on a real patient, her interaction with the healthcare system, and we included many of the value deficits that she experienced. So the students were in teams of 4 to 5 and tasked with identifying these value deficits. We gave them categories of value deficits based on the real categories that the quality office uses in many hospitals. Secondly, the teams were paired with physician mentors to come up with a solution for one of those value deficits, and the physician mentor's job was to make sure their solutions were realistic. So in order to help them along the way, we gave them a guidebook that walked them through some of these principles, taught them some of the basics, gave them the deadlines we expected them to meet. The end deliverable was a 20-minute video that went through the value deficits they analyzed, pick one to go into depth, and then propose a solution. We also built a rubric based on those similar quality improvement principles that were being used at our hospital to fairly assess the students and how they're doing. So the outcome of this first proof of concept was successful from an engagement standpoint. We had 6 teams, so 28 students in total participating with 6 different physician mentors. The students did a great job of successfully analyzing all the value deficits we Easter egg hunted into that case. And the marks from the physician judges were also very high. So now that this was a success, we said, okay, we definitely want to do this again at MCG, but why not copy and paste this to other schools? So we started reaching out to other organizations, other STARS students, other IHI clubs, and said, hey, do you want to do this at your school? You can just copy our homework. We've already done the hard work, no reason to reinvent the wheel. So we sent them 2 packets. So our students received the guidebook and their students received the same guidebook. We made a second guidebook, which is basically a competition in a box. You follow these steps, and this is how you produce this competition at your school. This is who you need to reach out to. And we even provide email templates. Just copy and paste the name of your chief quality officer and send off the email. So we tried to make it as easy as possible. So that worked, and we were very happy with that. But just for the sake of time, I'm not going to dwell too much on that, because what's more exciting besides just exporting what we did was we wanted to expand upon what we did. So once we realized that other schools were interested and that multiple schools could do this over multiple years, we started getting really ambitious. So what's even cooler than proposing a solution? Let's try and implement the solution. That's what really Six Sigma is all about, right? So this is where we get into that tricky territory where a lot of people are wondering, well, should you really ask medical students to implement? Because now you might be setting them up for failure. You can't, you're not going to solve something. In this case, we gave them 6 months. So where a lot of the art is, we built a rubric to have them build an implementation. Well, first we had a Pico sheet. So we just had the basics to walk them through, analyze your population, intervention, what's your control, how are you going to measure outcomes. Once they did that, we borrowed this plan tracker, which is literally what our quality office in our hospital uses to develop an implementation plan. So we asked students, whatever your solution is, let's say it takes 2 years to implement. Well, you have 6 months in that timeline. So they're going to be judged on two things. One, did you come up with an appropriate 2-year timeline? Is that actually a 2-year project? And two, in the 6 months we gave you, did you achieve 5 to 6 months of work, right? So the other thing we offered is the rubric, which kind of is based on this principle that, all right, we're going to just look at what you've done in that time. And also the other variance is everyone's project's going to be different. Some projects are going to take 5 years, some projects will take a year. So this allows us to somewhat standardize across that variance. The other thing we found, this is kind of a lesson learned from our initial proof of concept projects, that if you give people 2 months and say, see you in 2 months, what will happen is a lot of people cram in the last week and hope they'll just get that first place to check that box, which is fine. I've done that before too. But here we said, okay, let's give them a care package every week, which is a little lecture, a little video, a helpful website that we found to kind of walk them along the Six Sigma process. So here are the outcomes. We had 6 teams sign up initially. 2 of them ended up having to drop out. They weren't able to find mentors. They weren't able to find the key stakeholders in time for the competition to start. So we ended up having MCG, FSU, Baylor, and Penn State participate. What that data is really just saying is that we had about 10 to 20% of their M1 classes, which is what we were targeting to get folks interested in this early, and then they could grow their projects over time. So it's a good start. It's not where we'd like to be, but it's a start. More importantly, as I said, the exciting part is, can we actually get implementation? And this is the part that we all were down and we were wondering. So our top 3 teams that ended up getting first, second, and third place, 2 of them have IRB approved projects. One of them is seeking IRB approval. So not only did they meet their 6 months benchmarks, they got very good feedback from all physicians. So by the way, we have 2 physicians from every school contribute as kind of the national panel. And so they're actually going to be contributing to the literature, and they've made real world impacts. So the last piece of title together is this longitudinal model. If these steps look familiar, these are the steps of Six Sigma. So we tried to build that into our educational model. The first local competition is process analysis, develop a solution, solution proposal. Then you go into the national competition where you go into implementation, come up with a plan, and execute. And then finally, the last step is publish, contribute to the literature, and start becoming a leader in the field. So Dr. Randall asked me a question earlier, which is, how do you have sustainability for competitions like this? Well, for us, it was very easy, especially in this one, to choose who would be the next organizer. So the winners of each school's competition, we asked them to, after they finish their implementation, to now organize the next set of competitions. So in other words, in broad strokes, this is the classic see one, do one, teach one model. And in this way, they've learned how to apply value-based care at the medical student level. Thank you very much. I did make one major mistake that I really am sorry for. Dr. Mariota should be on here, and he was a very helpful mentor. So.